Hello and welcome to the RREV Voices of Innovation audio series. This episode is starting different than any that we've produced so far, because it is. All of our other episodes so far have only had one or two voices represented. This particular episode, from our visit to North Haven Community School, has 10 total voices. So another element of this episode that makes it different than the others and unique is that we're using acoustic drumming to clue you in as to when a new speaker joins the conversation. And this acoustic drumming is brought to us by Simon McNulty, who's a student at one of our other RREV awardee schools. And there's one more layer of RREV influence that's included with this acoustic drumming, is that the outdoor xylophone that Simon's playing on was a design inspired from Camden Rockport Elementary, which is another one of our RREV awarded schools. We are excited for you to listen to all 10 voices and Simon's acoustic drumming as they describe what it's like to live, learn, and innovate together as a team at North Haven Community School.
My name is Oakley Jackson. I'm an instructor here in the building. Mostly do woodworking with students, but kind of a variety of other things as well. I grew up on Greens Island off of Vinyl Haven. I went to high school in Vinyl Haven, and I waited to college and ended up back here in North Haven. And during kind of the start of the pandemic, there was a bunch of school enrichment funding, and students were doing half days of classroom work and then half days out here. And during that time I was close to full-time in the projects building and doing a variety of cool projects like model boat building and mask making and kind of whatever we thought was interesting. That was kind of how I got started in here, and then since then I've been doing more focused woodworking and come in and work on specific projects with most of the middle schoolers.
My name is Cecily Pingree. I sit on the school board here. So I also went K through 12th grade school here a long time ago. And I have little tiny children who will eventually go here as well. And I've been on the projects building committee pretty much the whole time. I've been on the school board, and I did not go to this school. The school was built afterwards. And this particular building has a lot of potential, as you can sort of see. And as a school board, we've been slowly trying to ensure that it is that we have a pathway to sustainability with it. Because as you guys know very well, you can do a lot of cool programming, but you really have to sort of build it from the inside out. And this team, particularly Amelia, Maddie, people like Oakley in the community have really helped that, and I would say we're sort of midway through from a school board standpoint. We've had a lot of admin turnover, and so that just sort of changes the speed every couple of years. We're in a good place right now, but I think it is a goal, and certainly with the RREV grant, it's been really helpful to sort of, this is the first year that we've put real money into this building in the school budget, but we're really trying to sort of get there faster to sort of see this building used K through 12th grade in a whole variety of ways. And I'd love to hear more from you guys about how schools are doing that. We've been reaching out to small schools doing the same thing in the area.
You just want to say your name and maybe one project or two that you've done in the project building?
That was Amelia Campbell. She is the Extended Learning Opportunities Coordinator. The conversation got going so fast, we did not get a chance to record her introducing herself, so I'm doing it here. And you will hear her voice several times throughout this conversation.
My name is Sigmund, and one of my favorites was we built a bunch of free little libraries.
Cool.
My name is Raymond LaBelle, and we built that boat that you guys went and saw.
Yeah.
That was one that we did this year.
My name's Odin, and what was the other ones? The other projects that we didn't get it. Oh,
What you did
we
that
built 2 toboggans and then we raced them at the toboggan nationals in Camden.
Got the shirt on.
Your shirt,
So
yeah.
really
that
advertising your t-shirt.
Wow, is that a setup? That was nice.
He also, I mean, who was the community expert that came in and helped to build the toboggans?
My dad.
Yeah.
And he milled the wood for the toboggan. His dad milled the wood for the toboggan.
Wow.
So great project. A lot of different ages of kids involved in it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Jessie Hallowell, and I am. This is my second year teaching at the school. I'm from North Haven, but was gone for a long time. I only went to school out here through 2nd grade, so I moved back about 12 years ago with my kids, which seems crazy. But I teach. I have a 3rd and 4th grade class and a 5th and 6th grade class. These are 3 of my 6th graders. There are 9 in that class and 8 3rd and 4th graders. So I bring each of those classes out twice a week. As part of my ELA class, we do lots of reading and writing, and we love that, but I also know that kids learn in very different environments and they get to show strengths in very different environments. And one of the wonderful things that has happened with the projects that we've done is it's involved a lot of public speaking. We've had to make phone calls. They've presented to the school board, they've presented to the select board. You guys are presenting tomorrow night to the select board for a project that we're working on now. So they've done research and they've done writing and they've made budgets and they've done a whole slew of things that are really important skills in terms of communicating. And so that's been part of my ELA curriculum. I love it. It's worth giving up some of that time in the classroom to come to these projects. So 3rd and 4th graders last year renovated out on the playground. There's a little, we call it the tree house. It was a tea house, playhouse, but they Oakley helped them put a new roof on it, and then we did some other renovations and we painted these great Maine mural on the inside. They each picked an animal that they researched and then they painted it, and it's really beautiful if you get to check that out. And these guys did free little libraries. If you came off the ferry, right in the ferry green is one of them. It's awesome. People use it all the time. And the other one is up at Southern Harbor House, which is the elder care facility, and there are trails next to it. And then we built the boat, which was fun. It was one of the best days delivering it to those preschool kids. They were so excited. And we're working on a proposal to really revamp the outside basketball court that they play on all the time down by the community center and fitness center. And Alexis, who was here earlier, is working with us to design a mural and to paint. So we do a whole bunch of projects. We work with Oakley building things. We work in the garden with Nathaniel. We do lots of different things, but it is like it's a really great addition to the work we do in the classroom.
My name is Nathaniel Little, and I've been working here in the school greenhouse and school garden for, about the past year, a little bit more now. And I'm here once a week for a full day. And we do everything from, seeding seeds to transplanting plants to doing any kind of standard garden maintenance that you kind of expect to have in your own garden. So the idea is teaching them really hands-on skills. Teaching them kind of to appreciate our food systems, where the stuff that we grow comes from, and hopefully inspire some of them to have their own gardens in the future, or better yet, pursue something in sustainable or just general agriculture, because that's kind of what we practice here a little bit. So yeah, that's what I do here.
One also very cute thing that we started doing last year is having the preschool kids, the incoming kindergartners, once a week come up to school and work in the garden with Nathaniel. So it's a way for them they get to ride the bus, which is so fun. They get to see parts of the school, but then they get to grow some plants and bring them down to the preschool garden. So that's a very sweet little program.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just thought of one other, if I could add just a little bit more. It's just, I think my favorite part of working here is that I'm the instructor and kind of facilitator for the woodworking, but it's really student driven, and we just all exchange our ideas, start out with a project and an idea, and then they kind of come up with their own unique models and ways of going about that. Like for the lending library, they all built actual cardboard little models, and then we presented them and chose a couple that we liked the best, and the same with the boat project. But I just really love that it's working with the students to develop their ideas. It's not just like giving them a curriculum or a project. It's like, how do we want to do this? Everyone has a say, and figuring out as we go along. And yeah, that feels great as an instructor.
It's all very collaborative.
Yeah. I would echo in what Oakley just said. When we do things in the school gardens, sometimes students will ask, can we do this? Or, they ask questions, can we try these things? Can we harvest these things? Can we plant these things? And the answer is yes, it's your garden. I'm here as somebody who can help facilitate your ideas, see maybe something is out of reach or is not, but really the sky's the limit, and however you want to use the space, it's not up to me, it's up to all of you. And I really like giving it to the students so that they can be the ones to experiment and learn themselves, rather than say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. There's a lot of different ways to do different projects, especially in the garden, so it's fun kind of hearing what you get from students and breaking old pedagogies and things like that, so it's exciting.
It's also just a really great space to do other things. We did something completely unrelated to building and gardening. The whole school is doing a Where Did All the Fish Go unit, and we had Allied Whale come out and did a necropsy of a baby porpoise that I found on the beach and kept in a chest freezer all winter, and they came out a month or so ago. Was it interesting, gross?
It was stanky.
It was stinky, but kind of fascinating. Yeah, so that was something the whole school got to participate in, and I can't think of another space we could have done it in that was open and everyone got to gather around. So it was really, got to touch it. We put on gloves and touched the porpoise skin before they cut it open. It was really fascinating. They do great work. So we can use this space as a community space for other things like that too. So.
I'm a school counselor, so I just kind of work with the project building team, facilitating extended learning opportunities for students, as well as working with students on their personal learning plans to figure out ways to utilize the space for tech interests, agriculture interests, things like that. So I'm just connecting students with awesome projects out here.
This year, one great thing that we got to start doing this year were the sort of extended learning opportunities through the grant. So we've been working with high school students and Kelsey to do internships and career placements. So we have a number of high school students who are all going off-site to work businesses, nonprofits, which has really been great, but is super helpful to, have Kelsey help facilitate that through their personalized learning plans. So,
I have a question. One of the things we're doing, we're touring all kinds of schools and we're hearing incredible stories. And one of the things we always ask is, what advice would you give? And from all your perspectives, teachers, board members, students, what advice would you give a school that wanted to teach and learn in the ways that you are, in the ways that you're providing for your students in school?
What do you guys like about learning
Yeah.
this way?
What advice would you give to a teacher that wanted to teach this?
I think it's, for me at least, it's better to learn hands-on than like reading through a notebook or something. So it's like for some students, it's better to work with hands-on building stuff or making stuff.
So you would recommend more hands-on kinds of
Yeah.
things?
I think the thing that I think it is really valuable is really making it like place-based and having I think the thing that really impacts our students is seeing the effect they can actually have in their community, be it middle schoolers transforming a basketball court or seeing preschoolers just go over the moon about this play boat they made them, or high schoolers actually working and impacting the local nonprofit or the local car mechanic, just seeing the impact you can actually have in place and in community. So I think so what's really worked for us is making the projects, making the work really meaningful in place. Probably one of the best things for me.
Students can see their work.
Yeah, and I think that one interesting thing about this group of people is that, a lot of us grew up here and know this island very well, and so have the ability to have connections with those community members. We sort of know who, oh, there's someone that builds toboggans, who loves toboggans. Can we get them to come in and do a toboggan building workshop? And I think that is a unique skill set to really know a community well enough to see those people, or, you know, just what the place-based projects can be. And I think that there are people that can come in and see that and have that skill set, but really utilizing the people that you have. And yeah, I think that that's really important.
Off of what I had said before, just student kind of choice and direction. I think, yeah, having that buy-in is really important. So letting them like tell us what they're interested in, and really be the ones that choose where we go with projects, so that at the end they feel like we chose this, we did it, and now look, it's in the community. And there's really like a sense of fulfillment, I think, for students when they can have that much of the driving force behind what we do.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Just having it be student driven, having the choice come from the students, and not entirely intentionally, but when we started looking around for projects, we were really thinking about what would improve the lives of people at school, what would improve the community, and so that's where the Free Little Libraries came from, the preschool boat, the basketball court. They're doing things that are really going to make an impact on their lives and other people's lives. So I think the choices coming from them is incredibly important. And also allowing room for paths that don't work and mistakes. I mean, for a while we really wanted to work on a bike trail that would go from here to a road, and we went down that trail, not pun not intended, but for a while. But there were property owners to talk to, and we did hit roadblocks, and it wasn't really panning out. And it was a project that was going to take a very, very long time, and so we had to step back and rethink that. And then we pivoted and started focusing on the basketball court. Not that we've left that behind, but that might be something for down the road and for later. So not everything works out, but there's so much learning in that too. And then they picked a different project. So it really is still from them, but we also knew when to push and when to step back. And so those, I think, are great lessons too.
I would say from a school board standpoint, that we're incredibly lucky to have the space and have a little bit of a tradition within the school system of this kind of learning. So we're lucky to have the space. We're lucky to have our tradition of this kind of learning, and still, even with that, our ability to get the RREV grant last year really allowed us to sort of bring it up a level. But for all the years past, just being able, as thinking about your question as advice to other schools, is that a lot of success has happened here with one teacher and one idea. So the idea that certainly having spaces to facilitate this kind of work is amazing. Having, part-time, full-time people that help facilitate it and bring teachers into this kind of way of teaching, it's like that's where we're trying to move to. So it is really part of the 12th, K through 12th grade kind of curriculum, and it really becomes sort of second nature, but it still is really slow. And even though we have spaces, we have a lot of people in the community that believe in this kind of education, a lot of people that work with their hands, a lot of people who come and want to work with us and do these cool projects. Still, there's always a little bit of pushback, and particularly even when it comes to the school budget, it's always like, can't we just figure that out somehow and not put money into it, not put money into staffing? And so, we've definitely learned that it is working better. I think Sean, as the head of school, should talk about this as well, but it's working better to actually have the facility alive and well, and teachers to be able to come out and brainstorm with this team of people who are just ready to take ideas and run with them, which is awesome. But just, over the years, we have only been able to be like one project. Where can we get something done? And keep chipping away so we don't kind of lose the sort of thread we're trying to pull with all of this. which right now it's got energy, but still we still have really hard budget conversations, and there's still not necessarily pushback as much as there was in late 90s and early 2000s in this community about this kind of learning, but still just wrapping your brain around like how it gets brought into the school day and how it gets balanced with traditional education, and like it's always a conversation and it's always a work.
Yeah.
So the next voice you're about to hear is Maddie Hollowell, who is the projects coordinator, and she joined the conversation as it was happening and didn't get a chance to introduce herself.
That's why it's so nice that Jessie comes out during her ELA block, just to like emphasize the point that it can be incorporated into a traditional or core class subject. Like she said, we do the public speaking, we do write-ups, we write property owners, we make cold calls, all those things that just real life implementation of what they learned in the classroom.
Yeah, so lucky to have this physical space too. Like, not all schools can have their own shop building, obviously, but just being a separate building from the school, I think, is neat for students to be able to leave the traditional classroom and actually walk to another space where they know they're going to be involved and working with their hands, and it's just a great kind of inspirational space. So if that's a possibility, having like the whole separate shop is awesome.
My name is Sean Johnson, and I'm the principal here. I've been an educator for about 25 years now, and so coming from a space in Washington, D.C. where, we couldn't rub two nickels together to do anything. The last school that I taught in, we actually ran out of paper in March, and so we had to go out and buy our own paper. We couldn't make any copies. And that was it. Folks don't realize that you could spend $15,000 on paper in a school year. So for me, one of the charges that I sort of had and that I felt was to breathe new life into this space. Most teachers don't have auxiliary classroom space. I remember making paper with my students out of like newspaper pulp and window screens, and that was all in our regular classroom. So there was ink and paper and pulp everywhere, and you either took those risks and dealt with the consequences, like staying until 6-7 o'clock at night cleaning up your own mess, or you just didn't do it all and write on worksheets. So I think a couple of things here that I overheard in the last couple of bits, and was just there's always this duality, dichotomy in education. For the sake of organization and specialization, people love siloing things. You're a second grader, and not only a second grader or a third grader or a ninth grader, but you're also in reading class, you're in math class, you're in science class. It's all separate. And then when you're doing things like scheduling, you're trying to find time because everyone feels very strongly about their subject. They're always struggling over time. And so one of the things that I say is, at least to myself, when I talk to myself all the time, is you will never win. You will never win against time. Time will always work against you. And so trying to find those ways to integrate meaningfully is not only good for efficiency's sake, but it's also better for learning's sake. And so when students are able to produce knowledge and understanding through multiple sensory modalities. And so it is an uphill battle with the constant siloing that occurs, the separation, the hyper-specialization that occurs in education, and getting folks willing to take the risk to break down those silos, I think, is super important, not just between subjects, but also between grade levels. That's another thing we have to consider, and we have the benefit here of just being small and K-12 that we rely less on those grade level silos, kindergarten, first, second. So we do have kids that naturally are in multi-age groups. They're already looped with a teacher for several years. And so that's just natural. But when you try to communicate that to people on the outside, it's, well, I'm a 7th grade science teacher. That's all I do. And so you don't see the connective tissue between all of the other opportunities that are out there. So,
I do have a prompt.
yes,
That we
please.
did. One prompt is, what advice, and we've got it from multiple different perspectives, and that's one of the things we're collecting as we visit, is from your perspective as an administrator, what advice would you give schools or other administrators who want to teach in the ways that you are and make the impact in the ways that you are here?
I think Maine is in a really good spot right now. You don't see a lot of the strict punitive accountability measures that you're seeing in other states. Since 2001 and No Child Left Behind, where schools were graded on an 8F scale, where teachers were hired and fired and merit pay based on their test scores. And so test data can be valuable, but it's not the be-all end-all here in Maine. We're starting to loosen up some of those strict accountability measures that which data can be weaponized against teachers. And so that's great. The only example I can think of is I've had conversations about science, for example, and we're talking about, well, what's science going to look like at the high school level? Who's going to teach what and when and how? And that's always a question that we talk about here. And it's like, well, you know, our ninth graders need a traditional chemistry class, or we need a traditional astronomy, or we need biology, and then we do chemistry, and then we do physics. And then I say, oh, that's interesting. That's the same sequence that someone in Nevada or Washington State says. Do you know why that is? Do you know why people traditionally teach astronomy or Earth and space, it's called now, biology, chemistry, and physics? Why do they do that? Why have they been doing that for 80 years? Oh, because physics is harder. Really? Is that why? No, it's because it's alphabetical. That's why. So all of the traditions we think we know about the right way of doing things are completely false and based on nothing. So there are some innovative things that, there are some things that we probably should do in a developmentally appropriate way. But when we talk about even with social science, well, kindergartners need to study themselves. First graders, they can't understand really anything else. So it's right in front of their face, their community helpers. Then third grade, it's a little bit of state history. And then fifth grade, it's, United States. Why do we study American history in fifth grade? Oh, because that's developmentally appropriate. No, it's because 80 years ago, when the curriculum was first written for the United States, it's because most people didn't go to school past fifth grade. And so before they went out into the world of work, they needed a good old dose of old-fashioned patriotic American history. Well, why do we study American history again in eighth grade? Great question. That's because mandatory schooling went until eighth grade, maybe 20 or 30 years later. And why do they teach it again in 10th grade? Excellent question. Because we made obligatory schooling up to 10th grade. Well, why do they do it again in 12th grade? Well, it's because it's usually American government and they're going to be voting and that's it. So all of that is based on nonsense and nothingness. And so little kids can understand long ago and far away as much as they can understand what's right in front of their face right now. So I think unpacking, demolishing, and dismantling those traditions that you think are scientifically based are not. And so get over yourself and find different ways of doing things. So that's my spiel. Again,
We call them mic drop moments. You had a number of them in there. Yeah.
got a lot of those in my life. So
Yeah.
some good, some not so good. So.
Yeah. Thank you.